Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for our second virtual Pecha Kucha. We are live tonight from the Rawlings Library hosting our 30th edition of Pecha Kucha Pueblo. Pecha Kucha is Japanese for chit chat and is the world's largest presentation format used by millions from around the globe. In 2003, Kleinditham Architecture, based in Tokyo, invented PK. The initial purpose was to streamline long design presentations because they thought people liked to talk too much. The format is 20 slides, 20 seconds each, concise, simple, and engaging. Pecha Kucha is a tool used to share stories, passion, and knowledge in less than 7 minutes. Since 2003, more than 3 million people from around the world have attended Pecha Kucha nights from around the globe. Tonight, we have 7 wonderful presenters that we will hear from. After all the presentations are complete, we will have a few minutes for the presenters to answer questions. Please enter your questions or comments in the chat box throughout the evening, and we will revisit them at the end of the presentations. Also, be sure to address your questions to a specific presenter. Now, let's get started with our first presenter for the evening, Tyler Schoen.
Hey everybody, I'm Tyler Schoen. I have been a self-employed videographer for about 2.5 years now, and I am owner of Jelly Mule Productions. Throughout this presentation, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the stories I tell, which will then tell you a little bit about my story. So the last time I gave this presentation was about 1.5 years ago, so everything is going to happen within the last 1.5 years that you see here. So this freeze frame you see is actually from our latest short film, which is called The Making Of, which is where we brought local artists, musicians, everything together in an Artist Anonymous meeting. That film is actually about to play in its 3rd festival tomorrow, actually, here in Kansas. It played in Florida, and it played locally in Colorado before that, which was our first effort at really having a big collaboration. Now, normally at this time of the year, I'm traveling the globe. This is actually the first time I've been in the country in October in the last 4 years. The picture that you see right now is actually taken in Thailand, which is where I was this time last year for about 3 months. Now, during that time in Thailand, I was interviewing cooking school owners, sanctuary owners, musicians, anyone I could really to tell the story of people in Thailand and hopefully provide a little bit of perspective, especially in my hometown, that people with 1/10 of the resources can be 10 times as happy. So there's no reason to dwell on anything that might be happening in our own country. Now, as we move on to better storytelling, and as I was storytelling, we had Russian delegates come to Pueblo, and I represented the Pueblo Film Commission, as I am one of the founding members of that, to tell a little bit about how we tell stories in Pueblo and how we continue to thrive as a film community. And we met with those people, presented to them, and tell them a little bit more about our stories. Now, as we move on, I was like, how can I tell more important stories? Well, I started filming things for local magazines like The Pulp. The picture you see right here is the first protest that happened in downtown Pueblo, where about 5,000 kids and adults alike went downtown after the killing of George Floyd. And it was an opportune time for me to show what was happening, not only in our country, but in our community. Now, that video that I did for The Pulp received about 63,000 views, which is easily the most views I've received on any video that I've made. And then it developed a blueprint on how we can repeat stories like that. How can we tell stories that matter in communities that matter? So Compassionate Colorado is a nonprofit out of Denver, Colorado, that then invited me to come down to the Navajo Nation as they were delivering water and supplies to the communities there, because they had the #1 highest COVID rates, even though they represented roughly 5% of the population. So I went down to New Mexico to stay with a family on a reservation down there. As you can see, maybe 40% of the families on these reservations didn't have clean running water, and they had to walk miles to go to a grocery store. My purpose in that was to highlight the plights that they were going through while this global pandemic was outbreaking. And I began to wonder, how can I continue to tell these stories? So in June of this year, Grand Rapids, Iowa received what is called a derecho, which is an inland hurricane. The only reason I heard about it was because family members were posting about the damage that had occurred in their towns on Facebook. The next day, I drove to Grand Rapids to see if I could help with relief efforts, which were receiving no national broadcast, nothing of the sort. I went there to find there was $4 billion of damage to the city. You may still have not heard of this damage because the government refused to give them any relief. The president arrived the same day I did, only to never leave the airport and not provide any support to that community. However, I created a video to help locals fundraise for things that were going on. They did a local concert, which then raised $10,000 for that specific cause. And it was just an example of another effort I tried to make to tell stories that matter and get them in front of people that will help. So as you can see, Grand Rapids had tons of damage, and there's communities that always need stories like that. Now, this picture is actually taken in February when I went to New Orleans to help, not help. I went to New Orleans for Mardi Gras to have a good time. While there, I was trying to film musicians, street musicians, concert musicians. Unknowingly, a month later, we would hit a global pandemic and the streets of New Orleans would actually be empty. Now, I first started shooting musicians when I started shooting videos, and that's where my love of videos came from, is starting with music. And that's why I went to 10, 12 different venues in New Orleans, filming musicians, giving them content to use on whatever platform they needed to. As I continued to tell more stories, I was then brought into city campaigns like the Pueblo Shares campaign, and Leadership Pueblo also brought me in to tell positive stories that are happening in Pueblo. This one is an example from a video I'm doing on the Home of Heroes, highlighting military members and memorials that Pueblo has in town. Among other videos in the campaign, highlight things like the Pueblo Food Project, the Pueblo House, justice rallies that happen throughout town. I pretty much go wherever I need to be and wherever I think I'm needed. So I continue to try to tell stories that matter in a town that has notoriously been self-deprecating. These three pictures that you see here, one of them is Camille Goodwin, who is the #3 ranked wakeboard surfer in the world, who is a native of Pueblo West. She is 19 years old. I was able to highlight her for a video. Other one is Adam Davidson, who heads the Southern Colorado Trail Builders. This full picture here you see is also from the set of our filming of the making of. In this picture, you have magazine owners, business owners, painters, musicians, videographers, sound engineers, most of them in their 20s, looking for a place to thrive. And we believe that can be in Pueblo, which is why I've joined most recently the Wake Up Pueblo team, which is a marketing effort not only to develop a company that can provide spotlights to businesses like the great ones we have in town, but also provide jobs for the young tech, marketing, film entrepreneurs and talented people that we have in town to stay around. And from all that, you're going to realize that I am a jolly mule, which is why I call my company that. I work hard, I play hard, and I hope you learned a little bit about my story and the stories I tell, because from me to you, this is storytelling in its rawest form. Thank you.
Hello, and thank you for allowing us to share with you a wonderful project that brought positivity to many community members, young and old, during the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic. It was a great project that earned our team the unofficial titles of the Health Solutions Bag Ladies. Dawn, Vicki, and myself represent Health Solutions Marketing and Public Relations team. Health Solutions is a nonprofit medical and behavioral health care provider that serves Pueblo, Huerfano, and Los Animas counties in southeastern Colorado. On March 11th, 2020, we were informed that by the end of the week, all Health Solutions staff would be observing the governor's stay-at-home order due to COVID-19. All staff would be working remotely unless designated essential staff. Essential staff are those who give direct health care to clients and patients. Our staff, many who are used to working with high-risk youth, expressed fear for school-aged children and their parents during the stay-at-home orders. They were afraid that parents were not given enough time to prepare their children to quarantine for days on end, which could lead them to behavioral hurdles and mayhem. That's when the Health Solutions Bag Ladies were born. We had the idea to put boredom buster bags and distribute to kids in our area that were in need of activities and stimulation during the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. We created a plan which included what would be in the bag, how to distribute, and who could help. The three of us have experience with our own kids at home, so we used our mom wisdom and decided to include items in the bags that we thought kids would be excited to get and also be mentally stimulating. We also had to select items that would equal under $5 per bag to adhere to the strict budget set by Health Solutions executive staff. We were then set up for a challenge. We were all working from home and we had to figure out how to purchase items for the bag. Remember when very few stores were open in our town? We dealt with store closures, low supplies of items, and slow mail delivery. Still, we were able to make this project happen.
Then it was time to figure out how to get the bags to the kids. With a mandatory stay-at-home order, there were very few people venturing out in public. We noticed that the schools were distributing free lunch, so we asked the managers of our school district's nutrition programs if we could tag along and distribute our bags at the same time that families were picking up their meals. The Boredom Buster Bag project commanded a surprising amount of media attention. Here you can see our first Facebook post. It was shared 93 times and reached 9,500 Facebook users with no paid promotions. Don was interviewed by KKTV, and the Trinidad Chronicle newspaper also covered this event. Because of the success and popularity of the Boredom Buster Bag program, we were able to build more bags and added additional distribution sites to our schedule. We gave out bags at Greenhorn Valley Library, the Bessemer Association Band Food Pantry, and the community baby shower organized by CSU Pueblo. We anticipated that we would only distribute around 500 bags, but when we received the numbers of meals that were being distributed by the schools, we learned that they gave out about 2,500 lunches twice per week. We knew our work was cut out for us. We didn't want to leave any school behind, so we bag ladies got busy building Boredom Buster bags. The Boredom Buster Bag project was such a success that it inspired other projects within Health Solutions. The Sensory Bag project was created with seniors in mind. We gifted nursing homes and assisted living residents and staff with anxiety-reducing bags. The sensory bags were created to teach mindfulness, which is a calming mental state, achieved by focusing awareness on the present moment while acknowledging the 5 senses: sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. This is a great slide to come back to after this presentation if you're interested in learning about mindfulness on your own. We chose items for the bags that would address all 5 human senses. For sight, a glitter wand. For smell, mint tea. For touch, a stress ball. For sound, a brass bell. And for smell, lavender sachets. We also designed an adult coloring book and puzzle book that came with each bag, as well as coloring pencils.
We began to receive requests to send bags to family members, friends, and neighbors. We received many thank you notes regarding the bags, including one from a nursing home staff member that said, "Thank you for this gift. It's been so stressful at work. I use these tools in my downtime to relax." Recovery Solutions, the Health Solutions Day program, developed wellness bags modeled after our project. We bag ladies helped to purchase, build, and deliver them. Many of these clients are high-risk individuals, so they could not go shopping for themselves. These bags included items geared towards specific needs such as food, hygiene, and apparel. Even outside of the pandemic, our department continuously raises funds for Health Solutions clients' needs. During this time, many clients were in need of food, cleaning supplies, and masks. We bag ladies risked our health and safety to purchase, build, and deliver bags full of groceries, soap, masks, and more during the stay-at-home order. Project funding came from our public relations budget, but was supplemented by contributions from other organizations. Elpamar Foundation gifted Health Solutions a grant, and Centennial Girls Cabinet gifted us their fundraising dollars. I even encountered a customer at the store who gave me cash when they learned what we were doing with the items. Not only did the project benefit kids in our community, clients, and residents of locked facilities, but several Health Solutions staff were able to do meaningful work by helping build the Boredom Buster bags. These staff would have otherwise been sent home on paid time off or leave without pay due to the pandemic. So there you have it. Now you know how we earned the prestigious titles of Health Solutions Bag Ladies. We do have an opportunity to continue this project outside of the pandemic. If you or an organization that you know of has a need for bags like we've discussed today, please contact us. We'd be glad to discuss how to bring the bag project to you. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you to Pecha Kucha and the Pueblo Library for hosting this. Very excited to be participating in this event. My name is Daniel Bewley, and I am the Public Outreach Manager for the Colorado Lottery. And I'm here to talk to you today about our Runyon to the Res Arkansas River Cleanup. If you don't know, the Colorado Lottery is the only lottery in the world that is primarily dedicated to funding the outdoors. Since 1983, we've given back over $3.5 billion to parks, trails, and open spaces all across the state. Some that you're probably well aware of, like that last one, was Fisher's Peak, which is our latest state park. Really excited about that project. Conservation is one of our 3 pillars, and it's a principle that we've taken to heart as of late. We believe our mission goes beyond simply writing a check, and we want to put our money where our mouth is. That's why we decided to create the Runyon to the Res, which is a Arkansas river cleanup. It is a 7.5-mile stretch from the Lake Pueblo State Park to Runyon Lake that we have gathered community organizations and just members of the public to come help us with this endeavor. Last year was our first year hosting this, and we are extremely proud of the success that it had. We had nearly 200 volunteers, and we cannot thank enough for their support in this project. And it was that level of support that highlighted the importance of what we're doing and what it means to the community. Now, for our part, the lottery staff from not only also up in Denver came down and put in their time. We also were excited to have some of our business partners come out, including our jackpot games vendor and our ad agency. And it was really nice to have them be a part of it because it lets them know that they care about us more than just as a client, but also about our mission. This would not have been possible without our conservation partners who work year-round to protect and enhance our outdoor spaces, not only here in Pueblo, but across the state. Those were Colorado Parks and Wildlife, the Pueblo Parks and Recreation Department, the Sierra Club, and the Nature and Wildlife Discovery Center. So from there, we all got together. We gave everyone the tools they needed, their grabbers, their buckets, and we headed out there and started to get our hands dirty. And this is really what we meant. We meant putting our money where our mouth is. We wanted to practice what we preach and actually take part in that conservation mission that has been core to our founding. You'd be surprised how much trash is actually out there. We send people out there with their buckets and it would come back full of garbage. And some surprising items also ended up in those buckets, but luckily no dead bodies, so we were thankful to see that. So many people told us that when they were out there, that experience really opened their eyes to their own impact on the environment and the trash that they produce, and people become more mindful because when you see it from far away, it's kind of abstract, but when you're right there and you just see how much is out there, it really does take a toll on you, and it makes you want to be better and help others to be better too. So we're a giving organization. After a long day's work, we showed our tremendous appreciation to our hardworking volunteers with a well-deserved meal and a nice little lottery goodie bag, something they all made it a little worth it. Not only the reward of cleaning up nature, but a little something extra. And then because of the fantastic success of our first year, we were so excited to turn this into an annual tradition, one that we were going to celebrate for years to come. We even set a date, October 10th, 2020. And then COVID hit. This is something that none of us expected, obviously, but we persevered. We did everything we could to make sure that we had everything set up. Obviously, we had to shrink things down a little bit. We had to break groups into a little bit smaller, and we encourage groups that are already together normally to volunteer together as they're already comfortable in that environment. So while it is a little bit different, we're really excited to still take place tomorrow. Unfortunately, we had to cap it at 95, so we're not accepting any more signups at this time. But like I said, this is something we want to do for years to come, and we would love to have you participate next year as well. And this is why we do it. This is the trail that you saw in an earlier shot, and you can see the impact that we have. We give people the opportunity to enjoy nature the way it's supposed to be enjoyed in its natural state. Coloradans, it's no secret, love the outdoors. 92% say they get outside to enjoy nature at least once every few weeks. And it's up to all of us to keep our outdoors beautiful, and that's really what conservation means. Not just protecting land from development, but also keeping it in that natural state. This year is particularly exciting for us as we were honored by Governor Jared Polis, who declared October Colorado Lottery Conservation Month. This nod to us really means a lot after our 37 years to finally get the recognition and hopefully spread the word to more people about what it is the Colorado Lottery does for the people of Colorado. In addition to our Pueblo cleanup tomorrow, we're also sponsoring a trail build up near Castle Rock through Volunteers for Outdoor Colorado, another one of our amazing partners. And we know it's our mission to continue to provide money to build parks, to build schools, to build trails, to protect those open spaces that we hold so dear. And as more and more people move to the state, we're seeing a huge toll on our outdoors. And so we know our mission is more important than ever, and we're dedicated to continuing to give back to the state of Colorado and everybody who lives here. Thank you again so much for having me. I was really excited to be invited and take part in this. I think it's an amazing way to share unique stories, and I look forward to more thought-provoking discussions. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. My name is Simon Tearpak, and my Pecha Kucha presentation is titled From New Wave to Synthwave. During the presentation, I hope to show the progression that New Wave has made from the 80s and 90s and into the present Synthwave genre. As you will see, New Wave to Synthwave showcases dynamic artists, often ahead of their time, that define music, fashion, and culture. So many people ask, what is New Wave? New Wave is a category of popular music spanning the late 70s and early 80s. Taking its name from the French New Wave cinema of the late 50s, this catch-all classification was defined in opposition both to punk, which was generally more raw, rough-edged, and political, and to mainstream corporate rock, which many new wave upstarts considered complacent and creatively stagnant. Bands such as Blondie, The Cars, Gary Newman, The Specials, Madness, Talking Heads, and The Go-Go's were all pioneers of the synthwave sound. Common sounds found in new wave include prominent guitars, bass lines, synthesizers, and vocals that touch on love, desire, nostalgia, and loneliness. Some bands took influence from reggae, forging a path forward with horn instruments that would become ska music as we know it. Just a disclaimer, there's no way to cover all the amazing albums in the new wave and synthwave genres tonight. With that said, I will cover albums that are some of my personal favorites and that I believe pave the way for future artists and that I listen to from start to finish. This album is Gary Newman's The Pleasure Principle. It debuted at #1 in 1979. It was a departure from his sounds in his punk band, the Tubeway Army. Newman credits the Mini Moog Model D synthesizer as a turning point for him regarding music production and experimentation. Founded in the late 70s by husband and wife duo Terry and Dale Bosio, Missing Persons found their niche in the burgeoning new wave scene of the early 80s. Their debut album, Spring Session M, launched them into stardom. The driving drums and glittering synths created a perfect sound for early MTV music video rotation. And her fashion also inspired countless pop stars right now and in the past. New Wave's Power, Corruption, and Lies, or I'm sorry, New Order's Power, Corruption, and Lies was a follow-up to their 1981 debut LP Movement. With this album, New Order made the bridge from post-punk to new wave through fully embracing synthesizers and keyboards. The cover art was utilizing Henry Fontaine-Latour's Basket of Roses. Burning Bridges was released in March of 1983. It featured the hit single Always Something There to Remind Me. It was Naked Eye's first studio album. Love is a heavy theme throughout the album. Burning Bridges truly encapsulates the new wave sound of the early 80s. The Cars released Heartbeat City, their fifth studio album, in 1984, channeling their signature new wave sound and producing slick MTV videos for the singles Magic and Drive. Heartbeat City would go on to produce 5 US top 40 hits and receive numerous positive reviews. MTV and pop culture in the early 90s was very much the antithesis of 80s pop, fashion, and visual content. I chose this picture of the movie Clueless because I feel it represents a major turning point for 90s pop culture. The movie fully embraced a new pop aesthetic and provided a platform for emerging artists that were influenced heavily by the new wave scene. Before we look at the impact of new wave's influence in the mid to late 90s, the ground was already being laid by Depeche Mode in their 6th studio album, Violator. Violator is the album that truly took the band to a new level. Merging more guitars with their signature synth sound, the band decided that they wanted their first record of the 90s to push boundaries. The first band to be featured in Clueless was Southern California's No Doubt. The movie featured Just a Girl off their album Tragic Kingdom. Released in October 1995, the band had said that Blondie, Madness, and the Specials were heavy influences on them in their career. The band noted that Spiderwebs was a song directly inspired by Blondie's The Tide is High. The Mighty Mighty Bosstones were the second band to be featured in Clueless. Hailing from Boston, the band formed in 1983 and would release their debut album Devil's Night Out in 1989. This band, like No Doubt, was also heavily influenced by the early new wave ska bands, Madness and the Specials. They reached their commercial peak with the 1997 album Let's Face It. Entering a new millennia also ushered in a new sound that took notes from the past. Synthwave is a genre of music that is heavily influenced by early pioneers of the new wave sound. It also takes inspiration from nostalgia of 80s pop culture and attempts to encapsulate the atmosphere from that era. Synthwave artists also draw influence from action, science fiction, and horror movie soundtracks and politics. Similar to Clueless, Drive was a movie that launched the synthwave genre to a broader audience and provided a platform for artists. Artists such as Kavinsky, Electric Youth, and Desire all showcased stellar tracks that created a unique atmosphere for the film. The artists and the soundtrack were crucial with the film's aesthetic and was influential on albums to follow. Dreamatic was FM Attack's 2009 debut. FM Attack, aka Sean Ward, is known for being one of the pioneers who helped create the synthwave movement. Matthew Newman, the editor of the movie Drive, listened to FM Attack and credits him as one of the inspirations for the movie's score. Betamax released Lost in a Dreamworld in 2019. He's a Pittsburgh-based synthwave producer. Released under FM Attack's Starfield music label, the album draws on the work of Depeche Mode and The Cure most notably. Betamax utilizes multiple types of synthesizers in production, as well as relies on guitars and drums. Moondragon, aka Troy Simpson, released the concept album Oceana in June of 2019. The album is a sonic journey into the Cold War era of secret soldiers that began with John F. Kennedy's development of unconventional warfare in the military to the 1980s, where the Navy created multiple SEAL teams. It's a concept album with reconnaissance missions as well. New arrangements by Corinne. This was released in 2019. Corinne is comprised of Trey Fry and Morgie Ramone. New arrangements was recorded, produced, and mixed entirely by the band. Echoing 80s era Depeche Mode and New Order, the band used vintage synthesizers to create the album's signature sound. The album has been dubbed New Wave for the New Generation. The album artwork is an homage to New Order's Power, Corruption, and Lies. In conclusion, I hope that this presentation has given you an overview of the origins of New Wave, its influences through the decades to the current inception of Synthwave, and how artists have used the past as inspiration to reimagine the present and the future. The artists that have participated in this movement have always been on the forefront of sonic creation and experimentation. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Chun. I'm the master electrician, owner, and operator of Quality Choice Electric, which was founded here in Pueblo, Colorado on July 4th, 2019. Quality Choice Electric is a licensed and insured electrical contractor serving all of Colorado, all the Front Range cities, and all the Rocky Mountain cities as well. We offer both commercial work and residential service work. Quality Choice Electric follows local and national electrical code. One thing that was fun in starting my own business was getting to choose the path. I chose a path that would supply the same great service to a low-paying customer with a small job that it would to a big customer, high-paying with a big job. So that was fun to do. Some basic services, some common services that we might get called for might be panel inspections, panel repairs, replacements, even upgrades in either new construction situations or remodel situations. This is a basic outlet. There's GFI, arc fault outlets, many different varieties, but we can help you also repair, replace, install, even add these in homes, businesses, also in new construction or remodel construction. Believe it or not, even here in Pueblo County, hot tub, spa, outdoor use is pretty popular and also has a lot of local national code that goes with it because of its proximity to water. The wiring should be properly installed by a licensed electrician. Popular items that we get called for might be ceiling fans, dining room lights, wall fixtures, recessed lighting. We can help you remove and replace these items or add them in remodels. Another example of some of these items might be pendant lights, under cabinet lighting, toe kick lighting, or even receptacles in workspaces that had none previously. This next picture is a picture of a swamp cooler. And this swamp cooler is an example of some bad wiring that was taken here in Pueblo. This wire is not rated for outdoor use, and we can help you identify problems like this, and we can offer you solutions to correct these problems. Whether it be by testing, troubleshooting, inspecting equipment or devices, we can help you identify problems in your home or business that you're currently having, and we can offer you affordable ways to fix those problems. I'd also like to take one moment to point out that beyond 120 volts and high voltage wiring, we also help out with data cable, with phone cable, TV cable, or security camera installation. Some of the new security cameras, such as the Ring security cameras, which are popular, require 120 volts for installation and should be done by a licensed electrician. I also want to emphasize that we extend these services into commercial work, into commercial locations, and welcome any kind of tenant finish, remodel, or service problems you might be experiencing. A good portion of our work comes in elevator modernizations, which we do with a team of partners all across Colorado and offer a quality product to our customers. Quality Choice Electric will install the disconnects, service equipment, and update the lighting through the hoistways and pits and machine rooms. Stepping away from work, I'd also like to mention that we are a business for good. We like donating our time and labor to nonprofits in the area. This is an example of Pause locally. We also donate to Khmer New Year, Kala, a literary arts association. And we also like to participate in community events. So local events that you might see around town, you might see us. This is the courthouse lighting, an appropriate event for an electrician. And as we grow, we also would like to grow our involvement in the community. Hats and masks, if it's safety required by OSHA, if it's safety required by the electrical code, or if it's new safety guidelines required by the CDC, safety is always first at Quality Choice Electric. You may be needing function, aesthetics, wondering about wiring options or new products. Deadlines, pricing might be a problem. We believe in building relationships and with our customers, and we believe we can help you with all your electrical needs. We hope you contact us. You can find us qualitychoiceelectric.com. You can contact us by phone, 303-350-8285. You can also follow us on Facebook, Quality Choice Electric, or with Twitter. Remember that you have the choice to choose quality for your next electrical project. And we hope you choose Quality Choice Electrical for that project. I'd like to take one last moment to thank the Pueblo Library District for giving us this opportunity to introduce ourselves to the community once again. I'd like to thank our customers for the first year of great work and great business. And I would also lastly like to thank my wife for her support. Thank you.
Where is Mongolia? On the far right side of the map, it's the dark green located between Russia on the north and China on the south. It is a landlocked country with a population of 3.2 million, or 5 people per square mile. This is the least densely populated country on the planet. The capital of Mongolia is Ulaanbaatar, where close to half the country's population lives. It is a very cosmopolitan city with high-rise hotels, cuisine from around the world, but it's also a third world country where some citizens live in geyers heated with wood or coal. Mongolia is a democracy after many years under communism rule. Genghis Khan was a founder and emperor of the Mongol Empire. In its height in 1279, the Mongol Empire had the largest contiguous land empire the world has ever seen. It stretched from the Asian coastline to the Caspian Sea up to Russia. It was created on the blood of millions, but it was the leader in creating many laws still used today. As we traveled across the country, we visited several monasteries that had been originally built in the 17th and 18th century, and then were destroyed during the Soviet purge in the 30s. The Soviets destroyed over 700 monasteries during their rule of Mongolia. This is how you travel across the country. You may have to create a new road if an old one is too muddy or the ruts were too deep. Outside of the capital, the infrastructure is rudimentary with only very basic facilities. On the way to our campsite, this was one of the few villages we saw outside of the capital. In the village, many of the homes are new and the town has restaurants and other amenities. The country is changing from the life of nomads and herders. This is the view of the Gare tourist camp where we camped. Please note the wooden structures in the middle on the right. Yes, they would be our 5-star bathrooms. The river is the Tamir River, and it was crystal clear. The solar heated showers were down by the river. This is the traditional felt tent of the nomadic herder. The Gare is made of a lattice structure covered with layers of felt and canvas. It is heated with a stove in the middle, and this is your home, all in one nice room. The Gare does hold it all. It has beds, dressers, stove, table, storage, everything you need, including a TV powered by solar. When it is time to move, they fold up the Gare, load it all up, and move to a new site for the herds. and the countryside has no power or telephone lines. Most of the dress was typical Western clothes, but many men, more so than the women, were dressed in the typical native style. It is uniquely designed for the demanding nomadic life, the harsh environment, and the very cold climate. You can have your choice of cheese made from cow, goat, sheep, horse, or yak milk. Yak and cow's milk are the most common. It usually is consumed fresh, but they do prepare a sufficient amount to eat during the very cold winters. Milk products are a staple of the Mongolian diet. Meat is another staple. It's usually mutton, where they boil the whole carcass with no waste. Another favorite is fermented mare's milk. Most meals were enjoyed with a glass or two of vodka. Mongolia is not only a country known for the harsh and vast Gobi Desert, but of grasslands, mountains, forests, lakes, rivers. 35% of the country is covered by grasslands or the steppe. It has close to 500 species of birds, along with the gazelles, reindeer, red deer, ibex, bear, and other small mammals. The steppes of Mongolia are covered with short grasses. The nomadic herders use the steppes for cattle grazing and will move their ger camps as needed. Preserving the grassland is critical to the nation's future and way of life. Deer stones are archaeological sites dating to the late Bronze Age, approximately 3,000 years ago. Over 600 deer sites have been identified, and they are characterized by carvings of deer with flowing antlers. Little is known about their function or meaning. They are considered to be the most threatened archaeological treasure of Central Asia. Usually close to deer stones are ceremonial stacks of rocks or burial mounds dating to the same period. To honor the dead, we rode our horses around the mound several times as we rode by. The Naadam Festival is held every year in July, with the regional festivals culminating with the large festival in Ulaanbaatar. It is a festival of national pride. The contest consists of 3 manly games: wrestling, horseback riding, and archery. The riders on the horses are ages 6 to 12, and depending on the age of the horse, they ride 9 to 18 miles. Wrestling is considered the most important of the 3 manly sports. This is the typical wrestling uniform, and be sure to notice the footwear. Touching the ground with anything other than the foot loses the match. Women do not participate in the games, but as a nation, women hold many positions at all levels of power, but suffer from high unemployment. The college graduation rate for women is much higher than for men. And to end our journey, our group is riding on the beautiful and wonderful steppe, enjoying the countryside of a country undergoing major changes due to mining, industrialization, tourism, and climate change. It was wonderful to ride off into the hills to see this beautiful country. Thank you.
Now for the United States Premier Hockey. We have players from all around the world, from the Czech Republic, Russia, the UK, Canada, multiple states, and 5 Pueblo natives. We have a strong team to make all of them. Our players range from 17 to 20 years old. Many of them have goals to play at the collegiate and professional levels. Our mission is as well as on the ice. But we also work hard to show them that being a part of this team also means being in the family. selling merch, drink sales, ushering, and in-game announcements, let you know that the team is covered for whatever needs may come up. Our coaching staff is made of excellent players as well. Chris Wilhite and David Nelson from Boston Hall, Tyler Tudor come together to help these players enhance their skills. Our coaches also have experience playing with females, so the game is near and dear to their hearts. Our players are lucky to have such a dedicated and skilled coaching team. We're lucky to have the support of local businesses and government to cheer us on. If there's one thing our players should take away from their time at Pueblo, is there's not much that separates our town. Unless we're talking about who has the best soccer, and there might be some very minor disagreements. This season, the Pueblo Bulls are making sure to keep our fans at the top of our priority list, regardless of the uncertainty with the COVID-19 pandemic. This means we will be having amazing hockey TV, having live stream events at the Pueblo Convention Center, and working hard as a communication team to keep our fans updated with everything. Having a team with this age group, a lot of them are forming into who they will be for the rest of their lives. Having this opportunity to help them find their confidence and install a sense of hometown pride means that they will always have a place to call home in our little town. It doesn't matter if we're in front of our sold-out crowds or our more younger excited team players. There is always a loud rumble of the crowd as we come on the ice and get ready to score our first goal against our opposing team. Having such a strong fan base means that we are able to do what we love for who we love. Having players from all over the world means we get the opportunity to experience different cultures without leaving the comfort of our hometowns. Many of these players are coming from overseas to experience what Pueblo has to offer. It's a great opportunity for all of us to learn what it's like in different worlds. On the other end of that, our Pueblo natives are able to be ambassadors for our community, to show them what it means to be Pueblo proud by showing them local restaurants and businesses and supporting those who support our team. Regardless of where their team is coming from, who they're staying with, or what age they are, they can all agree the Pueblo Ice Tournament is now their home ice. Having a shared home ice means they are 100% their own team, and this is helping them make bonds that will last forever. Last season, our team came together to form a family. They had money dinners, they traveled as a family, and they won as a family. Though things are a little different this year, with the COVID-19 pandemic as well as the new league, the spirit is still there to create that same environment. Our community has set a high expectation for us for our second season and our first season in a new league. But we can guarantee that your expectations not only will be met, but will be shattered because of the skill level our players have and are currently developing with our coaching staff. Bulls are currently facing the Ogden Mustangs this weekend. Both teams are filled with high-energy players. We're confident as a team we will be able to have our first World Series sweep by winning all 3 games this weekend. The Pueblo Bulls will play 25 home games in our 2020-2021 season. Our players, staff, and management are excited to be in this new league and cannot wait until we can all come together for some ice hockey together. Thank you to all of our wonderful presenters. If we could all give them a virtual round of applause. And now we will move on to our Q&A section of the evening. We had some comments come in and some questions. I see one that came in here on our YouTube channel for Corinne. And this one is coming from Regina Renee. And her question for you is, what sparked your deep interest in Mongolia? And also, do you have a favorite cheese?
We love to travel. And so it was just one of those countries where we just kind of did a little looking and thought, well, that'd be an interesting country. Haven't heard of very many people going to Mongolia, so we decided that it'd be a fun place to go visit. And all of the cheese was so fresh that it was really hard to determine, a tasty cheese in Mongolia because they were so different than the typical cheeses we have here. But it was interesting to try the different foods of Mongolia.
Thank you, Corinne. And up next, we'll have Tyler come up and he has a few questions to answer also.
Yeah, so my question was, in my opinion, why did I think relief efforts for Grand Rapids were disregarded? And that's a tough question to answer. I would say, but in my opinion, it'd be less disregarded rather than hard to be acknowledged among other things happening in the world. You got to remember that in June, at the same time, of course, we have global pandemic going on. We also have huge civil rights activities happening throughout the country. And you got to think about the geographical location. This is not a California town, a Florida town. This is in the middle of the Midwest. And those factors all kind of play into it. I think why it was tough for Iowans as polite as they are to ask and receive help in that scenario. So.
Thank you, Tyler. And up next with some questions, we have Courtney, Dawn, and Vicky coming up.
Hi, so we had a question, will the Bag Ladies program continue once the pandemic passes? And I believe that it will. We do have a stockpile of supplies to make both the Boredom Buster bags and the sensory bags. And the sensory bags can be used in a clinical way. And since we are a mental health facility, they are continuing to be used by clients at Health Solutions. So I believe that we'll continue to use those, as well as bring Boredom Buster bags to special events throughout our communities. And if you are able to go back to our slideshow, our last slide does have information on how to contact us. If you do have information on a special event, or if there's some place that we can be of use to bring the bags and to reach kids or elderly or anyone else that needs something like that in their lives.
Thank you for that information. And up next, with some questions to answer, we have Daniel.
All right, the question got asked, what was the most trash area of the river trail? So we all kind of had our own little sections, which definitely gave us our own perspective. I think, along the trail there, you would find your normal stuff that you would expect from people just being around. But down by the river, on the banks, like that gross stuff that gets tossed into the river and then finds its way on shore, I think that was definitely really surprising for a lot of people and made the biggest impact when we did get the chance to clean it up. The other question was if there were plans to expand the length of the river cleanup beyond the 7.5 miles. This is only our second year, so we are definitely, if it wasn't COVID, we wanted to expand, grow our numbers that we had last year. And it was nearly 200, so I would hope that we could get even more than that. And if that was the case, I think we definitely would look to broaden our scope of this, but it's such a new thing for us that we're still trying to figure out how exactly it's going to work. This year, obviously, being a little bit different, but we do really want to grow this and have it be a part of the community that we can get excited about every year and have everybody participate in. So, thanks.
Thank you, Daniel. And up next, we have Simon Tearpak.
Hi. So my question was, if somebody wanted to start listing a new wave, can you provide one artist per decade as a place to start? It's so hard to narrow those down, but I think that if you were to start in the late 70s, I would say Gary Newman, just because The Pleasure Principle, the album that I presented as my first album, it was such a foundational album in terms of synthesizer usage. So I would say check that one out. For the 80s, definitely check out New Order as the new wave artist to look at. For the 90s, I would look at Depeche Mode. And for synthwave and current synthesizer producers, I would look at FM Attack, since he was a big pioneer of the current sound and movement.
Thank you, Simon. And up next, we have Jeremy.
All right. Question comes, if a 1950s era house is still using fuses, should it be upgraded to a breaker switch system? And just a little quick explanation what this person is asking. We're all pretty much used to a switch system where it says on, off, maybe some numbers that read down the handle of your electrical panel system. This person has a system that has fuses. They're a screwed in light bulb like base that has different wattages written on them or amperage written on them as to their blowing point. They both blow at what is rated 20 amps. The thing is that code has updated the systems and the circuits in your home. So these fuses no longer meet current codes and safety requirements. So yes, in short, it should be replaced. The problem, and the number one problem that I see with these systems, is the wiring itself. And this is important to anybody who might have a fuse disconnect system, or, whether it be for a piece of equipment like your dryer, your hot water heater, or anything like that, even at your home, is that the wiring for these old systems is outdated as well, and is usually in poor condition, is brittle, and is falling apart, which leaves exposed conductors, which is your big problem for hazard in safety. So in short, yes, but I hope everybody found that education. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. And that concludes all of the questions for this evening. If anybody tuning in has some more questions, please feel free to type them in the chat, and we will do our best to direct your questions to our presenters later on this weekend. Let's give another round of applause to all of our presenters. You all did such an amazing job, and it's just really cool to see all of the amazing things that everyone in our community is doing. If you or anyone that you know is interested in doing a presentation, our next Pecha Kucha night will be held in February, and that will be volume 31. So please get in touch with the library, or again, make a comment or send us a message, and we will get in touch with you. But that concludes our event for this evening. And again, thank you all so much for tuning in, and I hope you have a great evening. Thank you.